Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mindgasms podcast. I'm going to talk to my friend Mark Benjamin from Mixed Mental Arts today. I guess I got to know you through the Mixed Mental Arts chats, and I mention them a lot on here. But for those of you who don't know, the Mixed Mental Arts is the group based on the podcast, the Bryan Callen Show now, which used to be called Man Thoughts, and then it was called the Bryan Callen Show, and then it was called Mixed Mental Arts, which is why the group is named that, and then it was changed back to the Bryan Callen Show again. But yeah, we're both part of that group that's basically about learning and spreading knowledge and learning about taking a multidisciplinary approach to knowledge and all that kind of good stuff. And I know, Mark, you're kind of more knowledgeable about topics that like economics and Bitcoin than me, I would say. And we also share interests in philosophy. And I know you wanted to talk about gathering information in our information or YouTube age too, which is an important issue. So yeah, why don't you just introduce yourself there and say a little bit about yourself?
All right. You summed it up relatively well. My name is Mark Benjamin. I used to be a deli clerk. I'm probably going to be going back to being a deli clerk relatively soon. And one day I was very, very sick of. One day I realized that at this rate, before I would have enough money to even live my life, even though I'm like 25, with rational risk, I would need money. And so I went on a journey into the depths of the internet to find out how to make it. And I've met many, many monsters there in the great depths of the internet. I met shillers. I met conspiracy theorists. I met beasts of all political likenesses, and my mad curiosity for information just was tickled the right way. And I just had to jump in there and just find out a way to. I'm still on that journey on a way to making a solid amount of money without having to rely on Social Security, which is slowly killing me, but at the same time, keeping me somewhat alive at the same time. Kind of like having a collar of blades.
I like the way that you put that. We should get a little bit more into how it's like a collar that way. But I like the kind of like slightly almost metaphorical way that you're describing it too. I think that I share your fascination with learning too. Of course, like I think at least the vast majority of other people on mixed mental arts too, and that yeah, like I said, that's a really good way of describing it. It's like a journey, and it's almost like a quest or an adventure, like you're a hero. Well, not necessarily that you're a hero, but you're like a person on a journey trying to find knowledge and tackle these monsters and these distractions like conspiracy theories and stuff, which can be so easy to get sucked into. And
And they
like
are
you,
useful to a certain extent. They
yeah,
are
yeah, exactly, yeah.
they're warnings. Like if pure straight facts are truths based on information that can be gathered within normal means, then conspiracy theories are basically what what people who can hide things, like they're basically let me see, tales of people that has the potential to hide things very, very bad with for the majority of people, but for them is relatively good, whether it be down to murder or money or a cabal or etc. It's basically a warning story. That's what to me that's what conspiracy theory is. So
Yeah,
down to like
that's a good way of describing it. Yeah.
so when most people think about that Hillary crap about them having a freaking sex dungeon or something, I don't complete. I
Whoa,
like at the
whoa,
same
whoa!
time
I
I'm
didn't
very
hear that.
skeptical.
I didn't
I'm
hear
very
that part
skeptical.
before. Tell me about that part. I didn't hear about it. The sex dungeon.
Oh yeah, apparently like Bill. It's mostly Bill, to be fair, but I don't know the details because I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. But from what I know of it, it's basically it's an extension of Pizzagate. It's basically like a bunch of rich people around the world. This is because I'm not going to use Hillary as a foreline. I'm going to use what the story sounds to me. The Pizzagate that extended to just I'll call it rich people gate. Basically, oligarchs around the world are just rich people who can that moral ability kind of wavers now because they're so rich and not with the populace are now using their power in inappropriate ways, whether it be through sex trafficking, drug tampering, etc., and just kind of keeping that information on the down low and making channels that making channels with other that only other stupidly rich people can basically have sex with kids. That's effectively it.
Wow. Okay.
And
So
or normal
like you were
people
saying,
and like the Saudis, or what's it called? Not the Saudis. Like the people overseas, they traffic kids overseas, and they kind of, and this is going all over the place because I didn't research into it because I didn't want to go crazy, but because I call it mad detective disorder, when regardless of whether they're right or wrong, you'll just feed that mad detective and soon he'll just consume your life, and then you'll just not make sense anymore to normal people. So even if
that's
you
a
are
good
right, they won't pay
that's a
attention.
good way of putting it. It's like
Yeah,
the conspiracy theorist version of confirmation bias.
yeah. I
Yeah.
call it mad detective disorder because regardless of their, like, if some parts of it's right, like there is a sex trafficking problem. There
Yeah.
is, and
And a
they
lot of what you said about like rich people controlling a lot of the political power tends to often happen
yeah,
too. So
and they're oligarchs, and that's why I'm saying it's a like I take conspiracy theories as a fable. There we go. Yeah, a fable, a
yeah,
loose truth that that's probably happening in some ways, but not exactly as the way like the conspiracy theorist thinks it is.
yeah, and
Like it's happening in
usually like
certain
not
ways.
quite as extreme and specific and organized as they seem to think it is.
And because I've seen some of that, because I've seen some of the guys, the reason why I call it mad detective disorder is because they don't just believe what they're saying. They're like, see, the proof is here. If you put this here and put this here, like I said, I didn't touch that information because I didn't want the same disorder. And and conspiracy theory is a very easy way to get, like, they're like not just conspiracy theories, like actual detectives, I'm pretty sure, have the exact same disorder.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. That's a good
that's
point
why.
because like you could have what people define as you could be like an extremely credentialed person, and that might give your opinions more merit, but it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily always mean that you're correct, because you are just as susceptible to confirmation bias as anyone else.
And with the current and this is actually going to loop back to internet nicely, funny enough, like, gathering information on the internet, um because of the way the media goes in lockstep with their way of spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is a term we use in the crypto community, by spread, like saying, hey, just so you know, if we want to go to war with someone because money, we'll get, or if some politician wants to stop a war, we will make everyone afraid so that so that they're begging for us to protect them. And then people don't trust information coming from cable sources. So where do they go? They go to the internet. And then you get two sides. One says everything that person says is crazy. And then the other side says, no, everything is absolutely what you say, man. You see, they do this and they do that, and then they carry this, and then the evil monkey is coming for me, man. It's something like that. It's something like and like I said, regardless if the person, some of the information that person gathers is right, or if their information gathering is actually really, really good and they actually found something, their obsession with that stuff will, and this happens to normal people too. Mad detective disorder happens to people. But what normally happens is you just go along with a bubble. You kind of fall into a bubble of a group that believes what you believe. That's what politics looks like to me these days. Looking for any, and Jonathan Haidt put this, made this point once. Like, people have an incentive to satisfy their group, and their group is right somehow. Both liberals and conservatives and libertarians and anarchists are right with a very fundamental point. And I'm not just talking, and now we're going to Peterson, a fundamental point, something that's very like, it's a core to a multidimensional problem. And they see one part, like, think of a core as one part of the whole problem. And they're focusing only on that core, which leaves out the stragglers. So the libertarians are like, and I'm not talking about the big L's that says, oh yeah, deregulate the bankers, man. Yeah. No, I'm talking about the guys who go like, fuck the government, man. Stop the world, man. Fuck the man. And then what's it called? And then they said, big businesses will be destroyed themselves, man. You don't need to worry. Free market, man. I'm talking about the actual one. Tether with gold, man.
You mean like the anarcho-capitalists?
Yeah, those.
Okay.
And then there's the anarchos, the other anarchos, the liberal anarchos going like, we just need to get rid of everything, man, and share everything and have everything wonderful, man. And there's totally not going to be people just kind of knocking at our door, wanting to rip us a new one and take over our land and murder us and take our existence
out of order. It's like you were saying, right? Like Jonathan Haidt basically describes exactly what you were talking about in terms of how people seem to tend to behave on the internet. Like, it's really hard to in this quest that we were talking about, trying to learn information and trying to not learn the wrong information or learn incorrect information it's really challenging, because you can easily get sucked down these rabbit holes, like a conspiracy theory one, like you were talking about. And then also, especially since like social media tends to, and YouTube and all, and
and they tends to algorithms
draw you down. Yeah, with those algorithms, they tend to draw you down like confirmation bias rabbit holes, basically. Like, you fall into these common political ideologies, and then, like you were saying, you see this single variable solution as the way to solve all the world's problems, when in reality it's a lot more complicated than that. And like Jonathan Haidt and Jordan Peterson both talk about, we need liberals and conservatives and libertarians and like people in all political parties to play their own parts in organizing this society together.
Exist.
Yeah,
they will all always exist, because people have this weird thing called different temperament, because people are different. You see,
what do you know?
Even in like very homogenous societies like China and Japan, I read a lot of manga and anime, and a very the very big theme is like, the people that stick out their head, you're not supposed to do that in those places. And those kind of people suffer the most. And they're either shunned, shunned to death because they poked out their head, or become over, like they get the extremes basically. And you need to be already rich to hit the extremes, but there's no middle ground. There's no middle, you're either screwed or you're just outgoing enough to be amusing. But that's about it. You're not but and those kind of societies, let's just say people like me won't survive.
Yeah,
And
and
that and
that's one of the, well, we're talking about the cons of the internet. There, one of the pros too is that, like, in our cultures, in our countries, for example, like in your country America, my country Canada, we can, anyone can stick their heads out. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that people will pay attention to you. Like, I don't have a very big following, for example, but anyone can do it, and the people who find out about them and care about them can spread that too, and they can start sharing their own opinions too.
yeah, and that's why even though it's a big ongoing joke with Trump about the 4D chess, everyone's life is 4D chess, and depending on how many, and that's actually multiplied by the internet, because everything you say is going to be in the internet forever. And so, because of this lack of forgiveness in current culture of people being stupid, and because of our nice, sweet, buttery police state that just keeps everyone snugly with a with a just a gentle hand to our throat if we just kind of get out of line, we or the people in masks that say we're totally not terrorists, smashing up windows, calling everybody a Nazi, so that justifies them smashing their heads in as well.
Yeah, you're a
And
Nazi, therefore I can use Nazi tactics against you.
Yeah, it's like I could use Nazi tactics against you. It's like and then there's the people on both ends saying, "Oh, but that's just a crazy minority," when it's always the crazy minority that starts all the wars ever. So
yeah, and they're always the people who scream the loudest too. And this is why, like you were, as you were just alluding to, the more, in my opinion, and I think you probably agree, the more like psychologically healthy for society type of mindset is having this approach of like our friend Dusty, the woke centrist in mixed martial arts, like being being more of a centrist and trying to be more neutral on things, like we were just talking about. Everyone has their own value in their different political opinions, and it's kind of like what I was talking about with Daniela Bolelli yesterday, the awesome historian, about how it's kind of interesting to have more of a Taoist perspective on this. Almost like, I'm not an expert on that, but it seems, based on the way he was describing it to me, that it's more of a neutral and balanced approach to things. But then it's like the one of the analogies he used was like surfing. So you gotta like go high on a wave sometime, and then sometimes the water's gonna be deeper, so you have to adapt your balance and maybe like go closer. So go closer to one end of the political spectrum in your thoughts one time than other times, like depending on the situation, which seems obvious once you figure that out, right? But it's really difficult to maintain.
but you know what they call us, filthy centrists, right? You damn centrist, you just want things to stay the same. You liberal end, you damn centrist, you don't want change. You are making that child die. You are literally the reason that child died, because you decided
Oh, it looks like we lost Mark for a minute there. Uh-oh. Here. Sorry, everyone. Looks like we lost Mark in the middle of an interesting rant there. We'll try to get him back here right away. Doo 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 doo. Government shut him down, man. Government doesn't like us talking about these things, man. Wonder what everyone else thinks about filthy sentences. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yo, that was weird.
The government shut you down, man.
Yeah, man. But to segue, where was we? Where were we?
You were going on an interesting rant about being a filthy centrist, I think.
Yeah, I feel like, to be fair, I'm politically atheist, which is slightly different than a centrist. A centrist still believes in the system a bit.
Oh, okay.
But I think some people on the liberal end and the conservative end just thinks about it as the same thing. But basically, what happens when things get bad enough?
So does political atheist mean kind of more like an anarchist almost?
Kinda. It's basically just not going into the themes of a political party. You just think about your own natural, like your own situation in politics, what seems right to you, and go like, okay, these are the ends that I would like to see. Where are the means? Who's going to let them happen? I'm not going to say party. I'm going to say you better do it, or whatever. I just don't care. Because I don't have power on the situation. Yeah. Depending on how much power the citizens have, that would change a bit. But in national America, we don't have any power. So it's like, it's basically, yeah. Since I know that literally every politician that is qualified for presidency at least killed a busload of people. Not literally, just like accidentally or on purpose.
Or
made
sending people to war or something like that too.
Because of signing a paper, a busload of people died. That's it. or because of real estate, or because of etc., or because of laws, or because of just corruption and garbage. And any politician that starts out will sooner or later kill a busload of people and more. So once you understand that there's no hope on either side, you just use, and I'm going to get back to internet right now, actually. You trust them for what they are. So you can't choose what's out there. You can just find them. So like, say, scrolling on YouTube, you see a bunch of videos to whatever catches your interest, whether it's to your liking or not, you'll click on it. And then guess what pops up? A person made that video. And that person's not perfect. They can't gather all the information, but you could trust them for liberal news, conservative news, comedy, porn, etc. And the quality of which, what are you in for? Like, are you in for light comedy, cartoon comedy? Are you in for what kind of sources is that person going to focus on? Is it the normal media sources, like most of the big names in the YouTube space, like TYT is basically CNN, or not CNN. I forgot the WNBC or something like that.
MSNBC?
MSN, yeah, MSN. What was it called? What's his name? And, others reputable, like the ones that are big right now, the ones that you can name. Like, and then there's people, and then on the other end of the spectrum, and is people sorry, let me just finish that thought. The beginning people, the ones that on the political end, they're like, okay, how extreme are their politics? Are they straight up socialists? Are they libertarian? Are they commies? Are they what's it called? And what good graces do they have for that? Let me just fill that itch that you didn't know you need itching. And that's kind of how you go into a singular rabbit hole. In other words, instead of, and that's why I still loop it in with mad detective disorder, because you'll find whatever politics you're in or whatever is in your interest, and you're not as madly curious as me, you'll stick with the one, but you want to know more about the thing that the person on the other screen is talking about. So you learn as much about it as possible, and you'll criticize every time they steer at any other weird direction by calling them a filthy centrist or a filthy something. And slowly but not surely, that person on the other side, when they have enough fans that are like that, will steer in the extremes alongside their what's it called? Viewers. And regardless of whether it's good faith arguments or whether they're doing talking points or they're just a guy in a suit in his house. In the end of the day, they get their news from the NSMs, the Times, what's it called? The normal
like
sources.
The news networks.
Yeah, and then there's the Foxes, the CNNs, the 12 News. Unless they go outside themselves, like say, I don't know, Tim Pool, they go outside themselves and check out what's going on around the world, or actually tries their best to put their actual opinion, that's not too far left or right, there's their opinion from their experience. Because in the end, even the economy is being manipulated by bad statistics. And that's government level.
That's an important point, what you were just talking about too. And I think that's why I think it's important to expose yourself to lots of different viewpoints, especially so you don't get, like you were talking about earlier, so you don't get too entrenched into one particular group. So that's why it's important to another thing we were talking about earlier, like express yourself and interact with people, and then you can learn from each other and have disagreements and then find out where you're wrong and then improve your worldview slightly a little bit every time. And it's good that you just brought up how economics relates to this and how it relates to politics too. We should get into a little bit more of that too, because I know you're more familiar with the particularly
the economics
details of how
economics in there,
particularly the details of how economics works, because I'm only mildly educated about this. Like, I've read The Wealth of Nations and I've taken some Khan Academy courses, but it seems like you're more knowledgeable about this than me.
To be fair, I'm not perfect either. I'm learning in pieces, so here I go. What I'm learning about is supply side economics, using gold as a tether, using currencies as currencies, whether it be like the fiat currencies. There we go. It's basically what I've learned is and this is not what they said in the books. This is how I interpret it, because like I said, I haven't gotten through a whole book yet. I'm actually reading The Monster of Jekyll. No, the Creature of Jekyll Island is a really good financial book that you should read. It's about America and how America got out of the gold standard.
I'll add that to my list.
And like, you guys have to make a show on it. That's how integral it is. That, like, when I read it, I was like, yeah, these guys need to talk about this. And it kind of feeds into the cryptos too. And the internet. What did people think of the internet when it first came up? Like, how are we going to use this? There's only like freaking porn stars, or there's only like a drug selling. And have you heard that before? I think you heard that before. There's many drugs on the internet. You shouldn't use it. There's many. It's very right wing. It's very bad. It's very bad.
And it's full of porn everywhere.
Yeah, all that porn and all that talking to other people. It's disgusting. You should listen to us in the news because we're important. And our job depends on you looking at us. Because
television news is the news you can trust.
Yeah, and basically that feeds into the economics. Like the supply, like they hype up the economic situation. And remember that thing, and everything I said before feeds in nicely to this conversation. It's a good, I said FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is a crypto term, but that's the news's job. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They get people riled up so that we beg them to regulate something. And it's create the problem and give the populace a solution.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, that's part of why I try to avoid paying attention to the media, because I love learning about stuff and I try to at least stay informed about what's going on in general. So I just know what's going on at least. But that's an important. But I try to avoid getting too into anything, because like the media has a financial incentive to spread paranoia and to get people worried about stuff. And the news is the bad news. And the bad news is not necessarily representative of what's actually going on in the entire world too, right?
Yeah, and guess who is in charge? Like, guess who pays the news and the information agencies all around the world? Banks. And their livelihood is tethered to the banks. And they get special privileges because they are TV news hosts. They get paid a lot. You know who else gets paid a lot? Economists. And their job is to justify what's happening and spin it in a good light until it's blatantly obvious for a baby to say, oh, just so you know, Papa, someone's dead on the street. And until that happens, we don't see any admissions. They kind of hint at it slowly so that they could kind of cover their backs later, but it's their job to play the interests of the big companies that already exist.
That's a really interesting and important point. And I think another interesting thing about economics is that there are all these theories, like game theory, for example, that are based on a rational theory of human behavior, as if humans behave rationally. And like one thing that Hunter Maats points out is that economists didn't read Adam Smith's other books, The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And Adam Smith even gets into this really briefly in Wealth of Nations, if I remember correctly, about how humans don't actually behave rationally. We don't believe in we don't behave the ways we want to. We don't behave in ways that make sense.
Yeah, we behave in the ways that what's it called? Is within our mental and surrounding based interests and social interests, of course, as well. And some people don't quite fit that that box. And what's it called? And back to the economy, what I could tell you is how manipulated it is, because I know about like bits and pieces around about the backstory. I can't give you times and dates, but I can give you like a nice overhead. I could tell you the players. I could tell you the different sources you can use that are not because I'm still learning about it. I don't know the basics, actually. I know, have you heard of Austrian economics or Australian economics or something along those lines?
Oh yeah, I've heard a little bit about that from the libertarians like to talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
right?
We're doing something knockoff of Keynesian economics, which is now just the neoliberalism, and that's basically like, and the neoliberalism, I'm pretty sure has a lot to do with the banks, because the banks are basically we're basically the muscle in America. The banks are the brains and they got the money. And they basically use actually something you alluded to before. People are not rational actors. The politicians just push out social norms using the media. So using the media, they push out social norms that banksters will generally like to get a country into debt, perpetual debt. And not just any kind of debt, just the kind of debt that makes you have to pay it off because of perception. Because they could print anything they want. Let's be fair. They could, because it's just numbers. It's just tech. They could, the dollars that we have, they could pump as much of it as they want, but they just get us used to different numbers.
That's a good point. Yeah, like whatever politicians are controlling the banks, like whoever is president, they reduce or increase the deficit based on changing numbers in a computer, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And they basically and they add up who owes what, and they convince people that something's valuable, like a dollar. A dollar's paper. Same thing with crypto. Crypto is just numbers on a screen, but but scarcity is put inside of it. It's made with scarcity and the purpose of holding wealth. And it's distributed, like the information about it is distributed amongst many computers. So any transaction can, if you're willing to look for it, is on the blockchain. You heard that before, right? Like every bit of information, and banks don't like it. They spread.
That's an important point.
Doubt. Yeah, and they spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt throughout the internet. And pay some people to spread fear, and they also smash prices, because you see people because people thought, like the normal people, the price went up to 220,000 because normal people were in there. The reason why it's not budging right now is because not just rich people, the government actually knows how to smash prices of all kinds of commodities, including and not limited to silver and gold, by throwing sell orders using the derivative markets, which I think is called futures. And don't ask me how it works. I'm still learning. And that's a big monkey amongst itself. All I know is they use paper. They basically just throw paper at it until it's just think about it. When people are interested in it, a price goes up because of scarcity.
Okay. And I
Then,
think to go back to what you were saying about
yeah.
how the value of money and all that kind of stuff is socially constructed is
Hmm.
really interesting and important to underscore too. And I want to know how do you think that Bitcoin could potentially help or even solve these solutions? And could you elaborate a little bit more on blockchain, just probably because
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with it, and probably lots of people watching this don't know that much about it either.
Fair point. I'm not a coder, mind you, and I'm not a financial expert, and I need to put that down because I'm going to have a lot of information dumping right here. That info dump. Let's begin. First, the very first thing about Bitcoin is putting the power of being your own bank. That's the greatest value that Bitcoin has, for you to be your own bank. But because not a lot of people, and yes, I'll explain how it works soon. Don't worry. Because not a lot of people has Bitcoin, and because it's a new technology, kind of like how the internet was before, clunky and hard to use, people were afraid of it. People don't want to learn a whole new set of things. Now people, the gold and silver guys are saying that it's a bubble because it has no value, like how the one of the richest men in the world said Facebook has no value because it's on the internet. Um, uh, the same, what's it called? Bitcoin is basically a truth, basically it basically shows you what happened in a payment process. That's the best way I could explain it without the numbers. Is basically everybody knows at the exact same time that's looking at the computer, that's looking for this information, will see that a transaction happened at this time once it hit this wallet. People mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but there's not just proof of work, there's proof of stake, there's proof of there's also other different ones, but I'm not going to get into that right now, at least a second. The proof of work is basically using your computer's energy and solve a crazy math problem that only a computer can solve. And as that process is going, a lot of energy is expended, and it takes more energy to mine the next Bitcoin. And the more transactions that need to happen, so it can the transactions can get clogged up and a bit slow. As a nice little warning for the noobs, uh, the price get like if the price heightens up, just think about it like if you go to a website and too many people's on the website and it's frozen, think of it like that. So that's intentional. It makes it so that it's hard to it's that computer thing is solved. Like one of the computers in this world solved the problem, and it takes more energy to solve the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then it goes upwards from there. And
Oh,
people make
okay.
yeah, and people make pools to have a bunch of computers together, or ASICs, and basically have a bunch of people from around the world mine as well. And at this point, there's and that's the reason why the amount of energy that Bitcoin has is the equivalent to a small country, is to keep the thing safe. But because it's a new technology, oh yeah, and it's also depending on the community, like the community can make tweaks to it to make it work better. So it's an active currency, while as the currency we're using, the dollar, we're entrusting a third party that has a bad rap to hold our money and not go insolvent. That's basically the difference between Bitcoin and the dollar. They're both been given value because we perceive value within the truth within the truth machine that's been created. But of course, the code is out. It's free. Everybody could look at the code, but not. And people say, okay, if Bitcoin's so valuable, why is there so many other cryptos? Just because the code that the foundation code is, I think it's called outsourced, or it's called anyone could see it. The code that makes Bitcoin. Anyone who knows how to code will look at it and verify, okay, this is not a scam, or this is a scam, or etc. And that's the same with most other cryptos. They have a code that they want, and they say, okay, this can serve this purpose because a blockchain can help improve, say, healthcare, can say improve banking, loans, unbanking the unbanked, banking the unbanked. And the guy who made it, Satoshi Nakamoto, an anonymous guy that's probably CIA, but if there's a CIA, well, they made a very stupid mistake.
I've never heard that before. Is that a rumor?
Yeah, it's a rumor. Some say it's Alan Greenspan. Some say it's this guy on YouTube that I don't really know his name. I doubt it's him. He'd probably be dead if that was the case. I'm not joking. He would, you see, the government doesn't want a competing currency.
Yeah.
Whether it be gold, silver, or Bitcoin. They got control of gold because they could just have a guy with guns come at your house and say, hey, guess what? I have a gun. Give me your gold. Doesn't even need to be in the government.
It's kind of ironic then that I see some libertarians talking about switching everyone to the gold-based currency then, since the government still controls gold.
Yeah, the gold-based currency, the only reason that's used is to basically say, even if the government has no choice when they have the gold state, is basically they don't have no choice but to not overspend anything. They have to be frugal. They have to prioritize and not spend $1 million on war. There wouldn't be $1 million if there wasn't $1 trillion. There wouldn't be anywhere near $1 trillion if the dollar was tethered to gold. And that's a fair point. But we also wouldn't have healthcare.
So it would still be gold valued currency would still be more effective than the system that we currently have then.
Yeah, but it
wouldn't probably be not as much as Bitcoin, you think?
But no, but don't it will be effective in stopping unfrugal behavior. It stops certain behaviors that will make someone bankrupt. War was only a way to hype up the masses, get some morale, and hide the fact that they're in economic trouble, and to steal gold from other places. That was the main reasons for war before, with my very limited view of history. And every war.
Now we get oil instead.
Yeah, we tethered it to oil, which is a bit more liquid, literally. And basically, we made a deal with some very bad characters. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And we go on a killing spree for their sake. That's basically it. And to keep the dollar from having any, let's just say, rivals. Which is why I'm almost certain that if the actual guy that made Bitcoin said, hey, guess what? I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. Guess what's going to happen to him? You will not hear from him again. Yeah, he'll die. Or he will just be put into prison.
Got into a mysterious car accident. His brakes stopped working.
Yeah, and there's lots of electronic cars these days. How about that? And because Google if Google keeps up its pace, and everybody knows that the Google is connected to the government to some extent, if, say, I don't know, everything was connected to the internet and Google was still as big as it was, it means it's a giant economic power. And people can't see the people on the other end or see their code or see what they put into that code or see, et cetera, et cetera. And that code affects us every day. And cryptocurrencies are basically codes that represent scarcity, or maybe not. Some of them are infinite, but most are scarcity based. And basically, there's 5 types from what I know. The Bitcoin type, or the coin type, where you would, they're basically just either faster than Bitcoin or a crypto that's just financial based. Electronium, Digibyte, etc. would be on that end. And there's coin and depending on where, or Dash, or what's it called? And it's basically banking types. Then there's tracking types, which could end up being like full nodes, which is basically proof of stake. And you get money for holding a certain amount in a certain type of computer. But you need a lot of money to participate with those because you need a lot of stake. Let's just say that. And then what's it called? Proof of stake would be Dash. What's it called? What else was there? There's VeChain, which is basically a Chinese chain, which keeps track of food products. That's why I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere. Like VeChain is basically something that keeps track of food products by using by having small code thing on the side, and you could track the destination of each thing. And since it's on the blockchain chain that shows like the transactions of, I don't know exactly how it works, of course. Just check it up on your laptop.
Oh, okay.
Just write down VeChain, what is it about? And then you're like, okay, yeah, that's a thing. And Ethereum, what's that? That's a thing to help make it easier to make other blockchains.
Oh, wow. I had no idea that there were so many different types of Bitcoin or blockchain.
Yeah. And Ethereum's not going anywhere because guess what? Guess who's in those? Very rich men.
Oh, okay.
Like country level rich men. Like not but of course it's some, but not all rich men are equal, and the ones that are not equal, the oligarchs, don't like Bitcoin. And guess what the oligarchs are in control of? You hear in the news that Bitcoin's greater and all that stuff. No, you hear in the news, oh my God, the price has crashed. Oh my God, you need to stay away from this thing. This thing is so turbulent, so crazy. Oh my God! Look at this.
Yeah,
Trumpians, Russia. This is Bitcoin. My God.
Trump,
and then if Russia used dollars, we might know about it.
Didn't even Warren Buffett? Didn't even the media spread around that Warren Buffett thought that cryptocurrencies weren't going to go anywhere, so they just latched onto that.
Warren Buffett is the same guy. Remember Warren Buffett, the guy that said, "Oh, just so you know, Mindspace for Twitter is not going anywhere," or Amazon. I forgot which one it was.
Okay.
It's totally going nowhere because it's a part of the internet, and I don't know. And that's basically him. Like I said, my information is not perfect because I don't have that traditional teaching. I don't got the teacher to go through every step by step, brick by brick. So I don't want to hear any weird typers going like, oh, you see, that's inaccurate because this thing is like this. And
you don't have a doctorate in economics, sir.
Yeah, it's the exactly guys. Like, yeah, just so you know, I know I don't know everything. I'm not magic. Neither are you. Get over yourself. So, yeah, and because I don't have a traditional teacher plus ADHD, and let's just say that, like, your curiosity can only last so long. Well, luckily, I was having an existential situation that would keep me in paying attention to bank information, money information, etc. Backstory now, because I segue like mad.
Yeah, you segue like a motherfucker. You're good at it. Yeah. You could go. I was actually going to ask you to talk more about your Social Security tethering there that you mentioned.
Think about Social Security as like a doggy leash, but that leash basically has think about it like a doggy leash, and the leash keeps you within certain parameters. You can't go too far in one parameter or the other. So say you do something that would normally be a net positive. I have Social Security, mind you, and I have Medicaid and Medicare. Both because I'm poor, and two, because I can't, like, I actually need the free thing, but I know what happens when you have the gall to become middle class. But I don't even have the opportunity to be middle class because I don't have, you see, I think either Medicaid or Medicare, one of them are meant for older people, but I was born into it. That's why I have it. Same thing with.
Wait, how does that work?
I have ADHD and autism.
Oh,
and basically,
okay.
my mom, the mom goes to the doctor and says it's a boy, and just so you know, this boy is tearing down the curtains and might have anger issues. Oh, it's ADHD, and they do the brain tests and all that stuff, and yeah, it's ADHD and autism, and a good indicator that you're going to be very, like, I found this out later, like more recently, like it's a very good indicator that you're very very likely to get depression, anxiety, and etc. Depression, anxiety, and other things because of the way the system's built. And another hamper is I have a ENTP personality type. And no, I'm not rigid. I'm not going to say I'm perfectly this or that. It's a good break, and it has a strong correlation with ADHD. Look it up, ENTP personality type. And it just basically, if you're in a similar, and ADHD, you're in a similar situation all the time, and your survival kind of leans you that way. You know, if you do something super, super out there, well, guess what's happening? The homeless crisis. I know my place. I'm in government housing. It basically Social Security puts you in a place. You don't have certain freedoms. You have freedoms to buy stuff, of course. You have freedom, but you don't have. But if you're economically aware or a rational actor, or at least know your place, which is a sad, sad statement. You kind of see things in a different way. Like, I never got a credit card because I never had enough money to get credit. So most people maybe would have their mom or the government give them credit because of schooling, because of a car, because etc. My mom didn't have enough to have a car. She had to worry about the house burning down because my brother was playing with the Easy Bake Oven. Papa died when I was around 11. Was that before or after the Easy Bake Oven incident? I think that was that. Yeah, he died after that. My brother had a real stealing habit, and my sister and brother had a smoking habit, which gave me headaches every time somebody smoked near me. And it helped. I was called. Then I had a younger experience when we met a very, very drugged up miss, and she was like a half dead state too. And we were actually legitimately middle class at that point, I'm assuming. Like, my papa was a pastor, funny enough. She either died or she went to prison. I'm not sure what happened to her. It was a very, very short meet. Basically, she knocked on the door and said, "This is at my house." And you could obviously see the needles and stuff, and you see the policeman take her away. And I've always lived within the same area, Rockland County, but it's a very big area. So I just moved within different areas within Rockland County. And let's just say the rent is not great there, but getting anyone that takes for tooth surgery or other different services that other than the norm, you're going to have a problem, and I can't afford any other problem, which is other medical insurance. If that makes sense. Basically,
okay. Yeah.
That builds on itself.
It sounds like you've had a lot of struggles for sure. It sounds like I've had slightly similar experiences as you, although I haven't had as many struggles. And I think and also in terms of personality types, I took one of those tests too.
I think you're breaking up.
I think it said
you're breaking up.
I'm IFTP or something like that, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that. But I think the especially according to more am I?
Okay, you broke up a bit.
Am I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're still kind of waving.
Oh, I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
Yeah, you're kind of shifting back and forth.
I think that might be on your end.
Oh, that might be on my end. Okay,
sorry?
I'm standing still. No.
I'm just going to
there we go.
Is you again there?
No.
You still there? You still there?
Still there?
Yeah, you are there. Hey. Yeah, I think the internet just fair, but I can. Oh, okay. But I'm just gonna because I can see on. Oh, I'm backing. Sorry. Anyway, I think actually based on more recent reads, seems like those profile they're just more. You can have pull over them than people would previously claim. Like for example, my preference is to be introverted, but I can still I still enjoy doing podcasts and like this and talking with you and that kind of stuff. And also another thing that we have in common, I think, at least slightly, is that when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with not ADHD but ADD, and then I guess I kind of have developed a lot of techniques that kind of help me focus throughout the years to the point that I don't need to take medication for it anymore. So it might not even that is more of it might be more of a tendency than, and I mean, I'm certainly not saying that ADD and ADHD don't exist.
I know exactly
or
where you're going
anything like that.
You're in a situation that allows for
saying that depending on the person, maybe more for me, it might be more of a tendency. Maybe
okay. Yeah, you're breaking up again.
It's less of a tendency than me.
It's very weird. I'm gonna try to do this on my laptop. Give me a second.
I'll check it out.
Gmail. Yeah, you're waving back and forth. Let me try to do this on my laptop. Yeah, I'm still there. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Oh yeah. You were.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get you on.
I can hear you. Okay, I can hear you now, but yeah, you were breaking up for a second there.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can hear. Oh, wow, this thing. I'm trying to get into my laptop because I might be able to do.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep. Oh, actually, I can't see your image going around. That's what's going on there now. You're darting in and out of. It keeps there. I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, since you
it usually does work better on you speaking than on a phone.
Everybody has everything in MBTI.
Yeah.
It's just that it's your preferred mode. of action, like cognitively. And so because my temperament and, everything points to that, except even the age.
Uh-oh. You still there, Mark? Oh, it looks like we might have lost Mark there again. So, I wonder what other people think about personality profiles.
Yeah,
yeah. Some think it
preference
depends on the person too. Maybe they're more of a preference for some people than other people.
That's
Maybe it depends.
Is preference. How you prefer to be in the world.
Like, some people prefer never shutting the fuck up. Some people prefer never saying a word. There's anything in between, but you can control those tendencies too, of course. And
at one end or the other. Most people are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, very few people are either those who never shut the fuck up or people who never say a word.
Yeah, most of us are.
And you can develop strategies that help you focus more too, even if you have ADHD, which doesn't mean that there aren't going to be challenges, of course, but you can develop strategies that cater to the way you tend to focus on things. Like, I think one of the things I've talked to with people, including perhaps Mark before, about is with reading a book, for example. You can do it in 15 to 30-minute chunks. So you can at least develop strategies that help with these sorts of things. Wonder if I'm going to be able to get Mark back on this chat here. Might have to just end this prematurely and start it at another time. We didn't get to talk about philosophy yet either.
I'm gonna need the microwave soon anyway to make supper. I won't start it yet, but I will need it soon.
Okay, I'm going to try Mark once more here, and otherwise, I'm just going to end this here. This isn't good.
I'm sorry.
All right, well, sorry everyone. I think I'm gonna end this prematurely. That was a really interesting conversation, but unfortunately there were too many technical difficulties. So I think I might just end this prematurely here now. But anyway, thanks everyone so much for watching what we've done so far, and hopefully we can do this successfully again with Mark. I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep this on the channel or delete it again, and maybe I can try to edit out some of these fucked up parts where we couldn't hear each other and whatnot. But anyway, thanks again everyone so much for watching another episode of Mindgasms. And as always, thank you everyone so much for subscribing to my channel and for contributing to me on Patreon. And thank you everyone